Hey, welcome back to ClearSpot. What if I told you there's a technology that could increase your solar energy production by up to 60% without adding a single extra panel to your system? And what if I told you that this same technology is powering massive solar farms around the world, generating billions of dollars in additional clean energy revenue? Today, we're diving deep into solar panel trackers, the machines that literally follow the sun across the sky, squeezing every last drop of energy from every ray of sunlight. In this video, we'll explore real-world performance data showing that solar trackers can produce 10 to 60% more energy than fixed systems. We'll look at case studies where single-axis trackers boosted output by 25 to 35%, and dual-axis trackers delivered up to 40% more power. Plus, we'll break down the economics, showing when trackers make sense, and honestly, when they don't. We'll also touch on maintenance, reliability, and the future of smart AI-powered trackers. By the end, you'll know exactly why solar trackers are revolutionizing utility-scale solar but remain largely impractical for most residential rooftops. At its core, solar tracking is built on a beautifully simple principle. Solar panels generate the most electricity when sunlight hits them at a perfect right angle, perpendicular to the surface. But here's the challenge. The sun moves east to west every single day, and its elevation angle changes with the seasons. A fixed panel can only be optimized for one specific angle, which means it operates at peak efficiency for just a small slice of the day. That's where solar trackers come in. Like sunflowers turning to face the sun, these mechanical systems rotate panels throughout the day, ensuring they stay in the sweet spot as long as possible. There are two main types of solar trackers. Single-axis trackers, well, these rotate east to west, following the sun's daily path. They're simpler, cheaper, and honestly more reliable than their dual-axis cousins. So, what's the typical gain? Usually it's about 25 to 35% more energy than fixed tilt systems. Dual-axis trackers, on the other hand, move in two directions, east to west and north to south. This allows them to adjust not only for the daily sun path but also for those seasonal elevation changes. And the gains? You're looking at 35 to 45% or even more, especially in high irradiance regions. So here's the physics, the Cosine effect. When sunlight strikes a panel directly, at a 90-degree angle, the panel absorbs nearly all of it. But as the angle increases, the effective irradiance, well, it decreases. For example, at a 60-degree angle, the effective sunlight is cut almost in half. Trackers help avoid these losses by keeping panels closer to perpendicular all day long. That's why, according to the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, or NREL, dual-axis trackers can increase annual output by up to 45% in sunny regions like Arizona, Spain, or the Middle East. Let's move from theory to reality. The numbers honestly speak volumes. In the United States Southwest, utility-scale solar farms equipped with single-axis trackers regularly deliver electricity at about 4.5 to 5.5 cents per kilowatt-hour. This is world-class economics, and tracking systems are a major contributor. The performance advantage is, clearest during peak demand hours. Take a July day in Albuquerque, for example, at solar noon, fixed and tracking systems perform pretty similarly. But during the morning and evening peaks, the trackers outperform dramatically. That means more power when the grid needs it most. Across multiple studies, we've seen some pretty interesting results. Single-axis trackers deliver about 20 to 30% more annual output. Dual-axis trackers can actually increase solar output by about 30 to 45%, especially in sunny climates. For instance, the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany documented that dual-axis trackers boosted yield by 38% in Mediterranean regions. In desert locations like Nevada or Saudi Arabia, the numbers are even higher. But, it's not just about annual totals, it's also about the shape of the production curve. Fixed systems, usually peak around noon and then drop off pretty sharply. Trackers, on the other hand, extend the plateau, producing high output for about 8 to 10 hours. That kind of consistency is honestly gold for grid operators. It reduces reliance on peaker plants and does a much better job matching real-world electricity demand. Seasonally, dual-axis trackers shine even brighter. In winter, when the sun sits low, they tilt up. In summer, they flatten out. It's like having a system that automatically self-optimizes year-round. Now let's talk about money, because performance alone doesn't pay the bills. Here's the reality: trackers add serious upfront cost. So single-axis systems, well, they usually add about $500 to $1,000 per panel. And dual-axis systems, yeah, those are even more expensive. Alright, let's look at an example. So, a 4 kilowatt fixed ground system typically costs around $13,000. Now, with a single axis tracking system, you're looking at about $20,000. And with a dual axis tracking system, the cost goes up to around $26,000. So that's a 57 to 100% cost increase for, just about 25 to 40% more output. Let's crunch it further. Fixed 4 kilowatt system, $14,625 cost, $1,100 in annual savings, which means, about 13 years to pay it back. So, with a single axis system, you're looking at a total cost of $22,125 and yearly savings of about $1,430. That means your payback period is roughly 15.5 years. Now, for a dual-axis system, the cost jumps to $29,625 with annual savings of $1,540. This stretches the payback period to about 19 years. Basically, you're spending an extra $15,000 and only getting about $440 more in savings each year. Honestly, the math just doesn't add up for most homeowners. What if instead of paying for a tracker, you just bought more panels? For $5,850, you could install 6 more panels, boosting output the same as a dual-axis system but at a fraction of the cost. That's why trackers are rarely seen in residential projects. Utility scale is a different story. At 100 megawatt scale, trackers pay for themselves in 5 to 10 years because, well, they spread fixed costs over massive capacity, they maximize land use, and they deliver power during expensive peak hours. For big solar, tracking is often a no-brainer. But here's another trade-off, folks: complexity. Fixed panels? Well, they have no moving parts and are virtually maintenance-free. Trackers, on the other hand, they involve motors, gears, and sensors, all of which are potential failure points. So let's talk about some common issues that you might encounter. One of these issues is, well, motors burning out. Another problem you might face is sensors misaligning. Sometimes software glitches can occur, locking trackers in the wrong position. And when trackers fail, panels can default to suboptimal angles, which ends up hurting production until they're fixed. Maintenance isn't cheap. So standard solar operations and maintenance typically costs between $300 and $700 per year. Now, when you add trackers, you also need to factor in extra inspections, lubrication, calibration, and even part replacements. On a global scale, operations and maintenance costs for solar are projected to reach $9.4 billion by the year 2025, with trackers making a pretty significant contribution to that total. So, where do trackers make sense, you might wonder? Utility-scale farms, yes indeed, they boost land efficiency, grid value, and economics. Commercial sites, sometimes. If you have high daytime loads and ground space, tracking helps. Residential rooftops, well, almost never. It's usually just cheaper to add more fixed panels instead. So, are there any exceptions? Yeah, off-grid homes with really tiny land areas or those premium projects where honestly every kilowatt hour counts. The future is honestly pretty exciting. So, AI and machine learning are, making trackers a lot smarter. They can predict cloud cover, adjust in real time, and even integrate with smart grids. Manufacturers are also, designing more durable and weather-resistant systems with fewer moving parts. And if you pair trackers with battery storage, you've basically got a powerhouse that maximizes energy capture and delivers steady energy even after sunset. So here's the bottom line. Solar trackers work. They deliver between 10 and 60% more energy. They make the most sense at utility and commercial scale. For homeowners, adding more fixed panels is almost always smarter. Like, share and subscribe for more solar insights. ClearSpot. Smart device, smarter decisions.